So over the past 5 years, my wife and I have been playing what's known as the two-player credit card game by earning credit card points from our everyday spending, combining those points together as a couple, and then turning those rewards into free travel. Our two-player system even helped us save a small fortune on our honeymoon to Hawaii last year, and I talk about this stuff all the time here on this channel, but I still get a ton of questions from other couples out there who are curious about how exactly they can take better advantage of their credit cards and points as well. So in this video, I figured I'd break down the full two-player strategy that my wife and I follow, as well as the actual math behind how the strategy works. And I want to use that math to prove how any couple, even beginners with the stuff, can save at least $10,000 on travel, all from their credit card points. And also thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video, but more on them later. Now, the first thing you want to do here in this two-player strategy is to set your targets to aim for. And this is important because it's going to tell us not only the number of points we want to aim to earn, but also the way we need to be redeeming those points. So like I said, because my goal with this video is to show you how to get $10,000 in travel from credit cards, what we're going to do is we're going to work backwards from that dollar amount to figure out where we should be setting those targets with earning and redeeming our points. Now, the way that most beginners redeem their points is typically going to be through a credit card issuer's portal because it's the easiest way to do it. But because it's so easy, the credit card issuers know that they don't really have to give you the best redemption rate, so you're typically not going to find a great deal there. In a travel portal, you're getting on average a fixed redemption rate of around 1 cent per point. So in order to get $10,000 in value, that means that you as a couple would need to get 1 million points as your target amount to earn, because when we look at the math, 1 million points times a fixed rate of 1 cent per point gets us $10,000. Now, of course, a million points is a very high number to reach, and it's going to take most people a while to get there. However, if you want to significantly cut down on that number of points that you're aiming to earn, then all you have to do is you're going to change your target redemption rate to be above 1 cent per point. And the way to do that for the most part is going to be by avoiding those travel portals and learning instead how to redeem by transferring your points directly to the airline and hotel programs. This is common knowledge if you've watched my channel or other channels like mine in the past, but it's important for people to understand this concept here and the math behind why transferring points works, because otherwise you're basically overpaying for travel by redeeming more points than you have to, which is a very common mistake. Now, transferring points does require a bit more effort and a bit more flexibility in your travel plans, which we'll talk about how to navigate later on with some beginner-friendly tips for transferring. And those tips can help you and your partner get at least double, triple, or sometimes even many multiples more in value for your points compared to what you get with a travel portal. For example, if you were able to get 2 cents per point on average across your redemptions by transferring points, then you and your partner together would only need to earn 500,000 points to realize the same $10,000 in value. And if you increased your average redemption rate to around 3 cents per point, then that number of points to aim for would drop even further to 334,000 points to get the same 10K. Now, getting a high cent per point value is not the only thing you should be focused on, because I am going to explain some of the flaws with cents per point later on in this video. But for the purposes of keeping things simple, let's say we're getting 2 cents per point on average, which is very doable. So again, that means we'd be aiming to save 500,000 points in total between you and your partner to get $10,000 in value, and that works out to be only 250,000 points for each person in a two-player setup. 250,000 points is a much more manageable number to reach when we set that as our target. So now for the next part of this video here, let's talk about how we're going to go about actually earning those points better than most people, with a few other tips that are going to be specific to anyone playing the two-player game. Now, if you already have some points saved up as you're watching this, then that's great and you've got a head start. But even if you're starting from zero right now, the top thing you want to do is focus on taking advantage of sign-up bonuses on new credit cards. Sign-up bonuses are typically going to give you the highest return on spend for your money because, for example, you might be able to earn 75,000 points after spending $5,000 in the first 3 months after you get a certain card. And even at a value of just 1 cent per point, those 75K points would be equal to $750. $750 as a percentage of the $5,000 in spending that it took you to earn that sign-up bonus is a 15% return on spend, and that return goes up even higher to 30% if you're getting our 2 cent per point target redemption rate, and those are both going to easily beat out the standard 1 to 5% back that you can get from the normal spending multipliers on any other credit card out there. So because sign-up bonuses are going to be the best method for getting the highest return per dollar spent, I typically recommend that taking advantage of those sign-up bonuses becomes a top priority for you on the earning side of your credit card strategy, especially if you see limited time offers going on with certain cards that allow you to get even more points or credits compared to the standard offer. I like to tell people to aim for getting a new credit card sign-up bonus every 3 to 6 months on average, but depending on your income and your spending levels, or if you have some larger one-time expenses coming up, you can adjust that time frame as needed. But the most important thing to remember here is not to overspend just to get these bonuses. You want to track your spending in some sort of way to make sure you're staying within your budget, or none of this strategy really works. And if you want the easiest way to do that, then I like to use apps like Rocket Money. Rocket Money is the app you need to save more and manage your money better, whether that's canceling any unwanted subscriptions, creating a custom budget budget, or just tracking your spending across a number of different credit cards like my wife and I do within our two-player strategy. What I love about Rocket Money is that with nearly 30 credit cards between us, we're able to track all our spending across those cards in one single place, which really makes analyzing our spending so much easier compared to before using this app. So before Rocket Money, we would have to individually log into a bunch of different accounts, one after the other, to see what our expenses look like on all those cards. And that process just started to take a lot of time to do, and it almost kind of made us want to stop analyzing our spending, which can be dangerous. With Rocket Money, we've also been able to identify and then cancel subscriptions right within their app with just a couple of taps. So that's another nice feature here where if you hate wasting money on stuff that you forgot you were paying for, now you're easily able to do something about it. So to save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today by going to rocketmoney.com/Daniel Braun or click the link down below in the description to get started for free. That's rocketmoney.com/Daniel Braun, or check out the link down below. And thank you again to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. Now, to continue talking about sign-up bonuses, the cool thing about going after these in a two-player setup is that not only do you have the ability to effectively double dip by having both you and your partner get certain cards, but many times you can also refer your player too, which then allows you to get a decent referral bonus on top of both your sign-up bonuses. So for example, if you got a card with a 75,000 point offer and then you met that minimum spend in the first 3 months to earn a bonus, what you could do in the future is then go into your credit card account and look for the refer a friend feature, and that's going to give you a custom link that you can then send to your partner to have them sign up for this card and earn a sign-up bonus as well. Then to say thanks for bringing them another customer, the credit card issuer can give you a referral bonus of, let's say, 15,000 points depending on the card, the issuer, and their terms. And then after your wife or husband or whoever your player 2 is gets their sign-up bonus, that's going to be 2 bonuses plus a referral bonus that you can then both put towards free travel together. In this example, that's 165,000 points from just one single credit card alone, so that's already 1/3 of the way towards our 500,000 point target. And hopefully that makes it clear that earning 500,000 points is going to be a lot easier than you might think when you're running a two-player system as a couple. And if you want to go ahead and check out any of the best credit card offers going on right now, then what I'll do is I'll leave some links down below that you can use if you want to help support some of the free content here on this channel. Now, outside of sign-up bonuses, there's obviously ways to earn even more points from regular multipliers in your cards as well. So what I also recommend the couples do is, again, analyze your spending with an app like Rocket Money or something like that, and then based on that spending, try to work to optimize what we call your core credit card setup. You want to be earning a minimum of 3 to 5x back on all your top spending categories like dining, groceries, travel, gas, and stuff like that. And then you also want to have a go-to catch-all card that earns at least 1.5 to 2x back on all miscellaneous purchases that don't fall under a higher points multiplier category. For the past few years of renting, my wife and I have also been using the Built MasterCard to earn 1x back on all our rent payments with no transaction fees. And so that's been giving us another 30 to 40,000 points per year that we were never able to earn before we had this card, which is great. The fact is that while hunting for good sign-up bonuses can be very effective, you're not always going to have a sign-up bonus to work on, and sometimes there may just be other things going on in your life that prevents you from opening new credit cards. So during those times, having a solid core credit card setup is going to allow you to still get the most value back from all your spending without having sign-up bonuses to lean on. Now, before we move on to actually redeeming our points and what couples should think about for that side of things, I have just a few more tips here that you want to keep in mind while earning your points in a two-player system as well. One of those tips is going to be to focus on prioritizing flexible bank points first before you move on to earning points with a bunch of hotel and airline specific credit cards. And the main reason for that is because of the lower devaluation risk and the increased options that bank points have. The fact is that while you can find some good value from hotel and airline specific cards, you're only going to be earning Marriott points or only Delta miles or only other single currencies on cards like that. And those single currencies basically only give you the options to redeem for hotel stays or flights using those specific points and miles. You can't transfer out to other partner programs like you can with bank points. And so what we see happen is that someone is earning Marriott points or Delta miles, and then all of a sudden one of those programs announces overnight changes that then devalue those hard-earned points. And then suddenly you're stuck with all these bad redemption options because the points you're holding don't have as much value as they did previously. At least with bank points, if one of the partners on those cards decides to devalue their currency, then what you could do is just ignore that currency and transfer to others out there that have better sweet spots instead. And unfortunately, especially in 2025 right now, we're seeing devaluations happen left and right. So by prioritizing you and your partner earning these bank points first from sign-up bonuses in your core credit card setup, at least you're gonna have better options, better flexibility, and hopefully better redemption values that get us closer to 2 cents per point as our target. Now, another tip to go along with this is to run your numbers when getting these various premium credit cards. And that's because we're also seeing increased annual fees across the board in 2025, which is going to be a trend that's not going away either. This is sort of the new normal product lifecycle for premium travel credit cards. But the good news is there are different tiers of annual fee cards, and you don't have to actually step into the world of $700 plus credit cards if you don't want to. There's still plenty of amazing cards that have no annual fee or fall into the roughly $100 range. So if you want to focus on getting those cards first to take advantage of the sign-up bonuses as well as the features and benefits they offer, then what you could do in the future is you could always see if any of the other higher tier premium cards are worth it for you. Typically, even though premium cards have higher annual fees, the sign-up bonuses can be pretty massive as well. Plus, they also come with a lot more credits and benefits that could potentially offset a lot of the annual fee if they give you enough value based on your own normal spending habits. So what you need to do is just run your numbers and then weigh the value of the credits, features, and benefits these cards offer, and then compare that to the cost of the annual fee. If they're not worth holding for the long term, then what you could do is you can always downgrade certain cards by product changing to others that have lower or no annual fee, or you can make the decision to cancel or even see if there's any retention offers available as well. Remember that most cards will change over time, and it's what we're seeing right now, so you shouldn't be loyal to any card or any issuer, and it's going to be their job to keep you happy as a customer, so if they're not doing that, then you should absolutely think about exiting that relationship. All right, now next, let's move on to the really fun stuff here with actually redeeming your credit card points in a two-player setup. And honestly, there's so much I wish I could cover here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over every tip and every piece of advice that I can think of that I wish I could tell myself when my wife and I were just starting out with this stuff. And then I'll also get into some examples that'll walk you through how to actually transfer and redeem. Now, the first tip that I have here with redeeming is to make sure that you combine your points together with your player two if you can. And this is something that's gonna vary with each issuer because, for example, you can't combine your Amex points together with your player two, but other banks like Chase do let you combine your points with certain cards if you're in the same household. If you have any questions on how that works, then you can go ahead and do some research on each issuer, or you can even just leave a comment down below and then myself or someone else in this community here can help you out. But even if you can't combine your points together with a certain issuer, what you can do is you can still use your points to book travel for your player two, and they can do the same to book travel for you if needed. Then for the next tip, I want you to understand that when you redeem your credit card points for travel, you are not going to be saving 100% on your travel costs. So in this video, we talked about saving $10,000 on travel, but that doesn't mean that you won't have to spend at least some cash on top of those savings. For example, a lot of the time when you redeem points, you might have to pay taxes and fees, and these taxes and fees could range from as low as around $5 for maybe an economy flight. But for certain redemptions, you could pay hundreds of dollars in fees on top of the points you're redeeming after you transfer them. To show you what that looks like, this business class ticket on KLM from Washington, D.C. to Amsterdam costs 60,000 points that I can transfer from any major bank points currency, but there's also $241.80 in taxes and fees that I have to pay on top of that. However, even though I have to pay some cash out of pocket in addition to those points to book this, the cash price of this business class ticket is over $7,900, and even the economy price is still $685, which are both well above what my out-of-pocket cost would be for taxes and fees on this award ticket. And this is where looking at cent per point value comes into play, because to see what the value of this redemption would be, we would take the cash price for this business class ticket, which is $7,953, and we would then subtract the taxes and fees of the award ticket, which is $241.80. The difference between those numbers is going to tell us the actual amount of travel savings that we're getting here with this redemption, because we're going to have to pay some cash no matter which way we book this. And then if we go ahead and divide that by the 60,000 points or miles that we're transferring and redeeming here, that's going to give us a value of 12.85 cents per point. Again, we want to be aiming for 2 cents per point when deciding if something is a good deal and a good use for our points, so that is going to easily beat that target, and it saves us over $7,700. However, that is going to bring me to my next tip here, that cent per point value is not the only thing to look at when transferring and redeeming points. That's because you have to honestly ask yourself, would I really pay over $7,900 for a plane ticket, even if it's in business class? And for most people, including myself, I would say no, I definitely would not pay that. But I bet that most people would be willing to pay that $685 cash price for the economy ticket. And so cent per point value aside, I know that I would be much happier if I could pay $241 in taxes and fees along with 60K points. That way I have access to a lay flat seat to start off my trip to Amsterdam with a little bit of rest. So sometimes you have to realize that cent per point value matters, but the cash rate for things like business class flights, luxury hotel stays, and other stuff like that might be a bit inflated, and you wouldn't normally pay cash for it, but at least leveraging the use of your credit card points is going to open up the door to experiencing those things with travel. Everyone's going to have different preferences for how they want to redeem their points. So if you don't really care about lay flat seats or international travel, then what you could do is you could try to stretch out your points into more economy style budget travel instead. And that leads me to the next two tips here, and those are going to be to understand your earn and burn rate and also to take advantage of transfer bonuses to kind of stretch the value of your points as well. So one of the reasons that I don't really recommend business class redemptions to everyone out there, even though I do like to show people how to do them, is because not everyone wants to burn through 120,000 points or more for business class tickets for 2 people. The fact is that a flight like I just showed you on KLM in business class for 60K points per person is going to be over in about 7.5 hours, whether you're in business class or economy. So I know a lot of people that just don't want to waste months of hard work earning all those points for something that's going to be gone in just a few hours. Sure, you could tell people you saved a lot of money on travel, and you can also really inflate the amount of travel savings that you technically get when you have these super high cent per point redemptions. But to me, getting at least 2 cents per point is a lot more realistic for the economy and the normal travel stuff that you probably would pay cash for anyway. So that's also kind of part of the reason why I think you should be using 2 cents per point as a target. Now, you also got to understand your earn and your burn rates, or in other words, how fast and easily you can earn more credit card points, and then how fast you want to use those points with just a few higher end redemptions or many lower end redemptions. Some people like myself have business spending in addition to our personal spending, which kind of allows us to earn points really fast. And then I also talk to people about credit cards for a living, so obviously I can admit that I'm able to earn a bit more in referral bonuses than the average person. But if you're a young couple who are fresh out of college and your expenses aren't really that high yet, then it might take a while for you to earn back a lot more points after you redeem them. That's why you want to have both earning and redeeming plans for your overall strategy, because they go hand in hand. So ask yourself, how fast can you earn and burn your points? But that's also where transfer bonuses come in, because when you're earning all these flexible bank points, that's where you could stay patient and wait for a strong transfer bonus of maybe 20 to 30% to appear on any number of airline and hotel programs. And those transfer bonuses are going to allow you to stretch your points even further. For example, with that KLM flight, maybe 60,000 points sounds a little steep for a business class ticket, but if you're able to take advantage of the many transfer bonuses that typically go on between bank points and the Air France KLM Flying Blue program every year, you might be able to transfer, let's say, 48,000 bank points into 60,000 Flying Blue miles with a 25% transfer bonus. These transfer bonuses only last for around a few weeks on average, so when you see them going on, then that is when you have to act fast to make the most of them. And for a fun exercise, let's go back to the math in this video with earning and redeeming 500,000 points for $10,000 in travel. If you were able to consistently transfer points only when there was a 25% transfer bonus going on to any program, and that was a rule that you were patient with doing, then you would only need to earn 400,000 points or 200,000 points per person in a 2-player setup to then transfer at a 25% transfer bonus rate to get 500,000 points with certain airline or hotel programs that run these bonuses. Now, you're probably not always going to be able to transfer with a bonus, because sometimes you might just find award availability for something out there that you want to book with points when there's no bonus going on. And that is going to bring me to my next tip here, which is to be flexible and practice finding award availability. This is probably the most important tip here when it comes to redeeming your points and miles for travel, because the more flexibility you have with booking travel, the better. So that means having flexibility with dates you can fly on, flexibility with potentially positioning to other airports with more flights and better award prices, or really anything else like that. If you're going to say that I have to fly on June 5th and I have to fly exactly from Philadelphia to London, then you're going to limit a lot of your options to finding the right award availability. But if you said, I'm just looking to go on a Europe trip, preferably at least to London at some point from somewhere on the East Coast of the US and sometime during the month of June next year, then that's going to be a lot more flexible and we can work with that much easier. I recommend using tools like my transfer partner guide as well as seats.aero to help you understand airline alliances as well as how to search for award availability. Then I also recommend you look at booking one-way versus round-trip flights for this stuff, because again, that's going to lead to more flexibility. Even though sometimes one-way flights can cost just a bit more than round-trip, the fact is that one-way flights are going to be more flexible and just easier to manage or change if needed. Plus, there's also a good chance that you might only be able to find award availability going in one direction on one airline for a trip, but then maybe you can't find availability for the return trip, or you have to fly out of another airport on another airline to get home. One-way flights give you many options to plan a trip like that by using some points and some cash if needed. And there's a ton of other details that I could get into here with this stuff, but I don't want this video to kind of drag on. So again, to sum it up, flexibility is key. Now, I could go on and on about all the different options you have with redeeming your credit card points for good value, but honestly, the best way to teach you more about this stuff in a 2-player strategy is going to be to show you with plenty of examples. So I went ahead and created a playlist of videos that I've made with countless examples that walk you through step by step how to search for and find good ways to transfer and redeem your points. So go ahead and check out those videos that are on the screen next. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.